Now, we're a party that's described as being anti-immigrant. It's a terrible lie, of course, told by our opponents, and often repeated by, dare I say, the media. When we talk about immigration, every country that I know that can voluntarily make this decision themselves has a focused, planned immigration policy. In fact, there's not one country in Asia that does not have a policy totally aligned with New Zealand first. Or if there is, put your hand up and tell me which country would that be. But every Asian country has that policy. In short, like Norway and like Switzerland, those countries in Asia that are smart say that we need immigrants to fill critical gaps that we can't fill, but they must be top class in terms of their skills, and it's not all academic. It may be in other fields as well. But they have a serious focused immigration policy, and we don't. Now the UK has just set a target. This is a country of 65 million people. They have set a net immigration target of 100,000 people. Here we are with 4.7 million, and our net immigration at the moment is running at 72,000. You see the disconnect between a sound policy and a hopeless policy that's unfocused, that's based purely on a thing called consumption and not production and not productivity, and above all, not on growing the wealth of the society in which they have charged as a government with the obligation to run. 72,000 is the population of Rotorua coming every year, which you'll work out requires what? It requires the infrastructure of Rotorua every year to be built in New Zealand. All of Rotorua's housing, all of their medical, schooling, educational, recreational, everything to do with a city like Rotorua is required every year to be built in this country if you're going to take those numbers. And they haven't, these governments, been doing a fraction of it. And they've been telling you that this is magnificent for you, immigration, mass immigration is good. Really? How are your rentals going in Wellington? Well, I must be at a foundation branch of the Mother Teresa Society, because they're seriously punishing you with massively high rentals that you can't afford, and yet you're all smiling. But if I go to Auckland, it's the same thing, it's worse. In fact, people are living, a lot of students, in serious degradation. And worse than that, people who have left university 10 years ago are living in seriously challenged circumstances. And all of it is artificially created demand by a bunch of politicians who decided they had no economic strategy for this country other than mass immigration, which breeds consumption, but it doesn't breed this most critical thing, and that is a growth in your per person incomes, so that next year will be better, and the year after that will be better. In fact, in the budget, which we've got right now, and it's going to be voted on at the end of this week, in that budget, with all those highly paid civil servants in Treasury, they make no mention of the per capita earnings of New Zealanders, person by person. Because if they did, then you would learn that we're going nowhere, that we're flatlining. And above all, they don't put in that figure and then put alongside it, say, 10 leading economies, like Scandinavia, like Singapore, like Switzerland. No, don't put those in, because the moment they do that, you would know that the myth that they're seeking to create about how good things are is just that, a myth. So before you vote in 2017, and the 2 weeks before, or on the 23rd of September, have a good hard look at not what they're saying, but the facts behind their argument, and ask yourself this: are we going up the OECD, or we're going down? Because they're constantly saying to you, they're saying, we're doing far better than other economies. Look at our growth rate. It's almost 3%, they say. Really? Well, look, I'm amongst the university students, and you should be pretty bright. you should be able to work out that if a family, a mum and dad have got 4 kids, and they decide to have 3 more, and their income doesn't improve, then everybody in that household is worse off. And if we decide to have mass immigration at 72,000 net a year, which is 4 times that of the UK before they left Brexit, before they left the EU, and far, far higher than Australia, about 3 or 4 times much higher than Australia, then if we're going to have that level of immigration and not have the wealth to go with it, then we're all going to be, as a country, worse off. Now, I've got to be honest and say to you that some people have been extraordinarily better off because they're in the consumption business, in areas where the things that people need, they have control over, such as in housing development. But you might ask yourself before you vote, why does it cost 35% more to build a house in New Zealand than it does in Australia? What could the reason be for that? Unless there are things seriously going wrong within our political institutions and not having inquiries into the cost structures and things like that. If any party has been for mass immigration, and all the rest have, then pray tell me what would their solution be to the housing crisis that we face around New Zealand now, spilling out into the provinces, into places like Whangarei, Tauranga and elsewhere, and here in Wellington. If they're for mass immigration, what solution would they possibly have for the housing crisis we face? And a crisis it is. Because you'll leave university, it'll be 3 times harder for you to get a house than it was for your parents. I'm looking at your age group, I've pretty much got it right. It'll be 3 times harder for you to start than them. So, you might be in love with the Greens. They're for mass immigration. You may be in love with their party. Well, they started it. Helen Clark was bringing in 50,000 net when the Aussies net were bringing in 80,000. This massive country with a far bigger population bringing 80,000, and their party was bringing in 50,000. We've got a mayor of Auckland, a lovely guy, Phil Goff, former foreign minister, who's saying now that the Auckland structural deficit is $7 billion. And he's asking for central government to help him out. In short, he's asking for you to pay for the development of Auckland's infrastructural needs. But he's not prepared to admit, or any of them, when they look at Auckland, that they were the architects of this disaster. Because when we and I were saying many years ago, this is a pathway to ruin of this country, they all said that we were xenophobic, a word they can't even spell most of the time, and racist. And here we've got all the tickets that come home now, and they're all standing up and say, oh, we can help. Let me ask you this question. Why would you vote for the architects of a disaster to fix that disaster up? And there's only one party can look in the eye and say they have got an answer to it, and we know where it's going to come from. And we'll unveil in this campaign exactly who's going to be paying for it. But I can tell you, the people of Auckland can't fix up Auckland, and the people of Wellington can't fix up Wellington, and the people of Christchurch are most definitely not able to fix up Christchurch. But we as a country can if we pursue sound policies. My party is called New Zealand First. What we stand for is in our name. Not New Zealand's 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, and being controlled and run by every foreign economy and every foreign bank, but controlling our own destiny. Think about it. And even if you can't bring yourself to change from the vote pattern that your parents established, then we've got a deal for you. We're reasonable. Give your vote for any Looney Tune you like in your first vote, but buy yourself some insurance and party vote New Zealand First for your second vote. Thank you very much.